Good morning. So welcome. Welcome, Wendy. It's lovely to have you here. Welcome, Madam President. Are we too high? Is that better? Okay. So I'll start again. So welcome, Wendy. Welcome, Madam President. Lovely to see you here. You know, I think this should be the A team, shouldn't it? So just before we health and safety, I need to tell you that if there is an emergency, the gathering place is the Lynch Gate. So just please go out there in a nice orderly fashion to the Lynch Gate, and there'll be staff that will, tell us what to do if we need to do anything special. And now I'm going to get, the toilets are at the back, and I'm going to get Jan now just to start our proceedings with a little homily or a little prayer. Thank you, Jan.
Good morning, everybody. Just in case you might not know who I am, I'm the AAW chaplain, Reverend Jan Brodie. So I have chosen, you might think it's a bit of a strange reading, but I think you'll realise when I've read it why I've chosen it. So it's from Matthew chapter 12, verses 46. While Jesus was still speaking to the crowds, his mother and his brothers were standing outside, wanting to speak to him. Someone told him, "Look, your mother and your brothers are standing outside wanting to speak to you." But to the one who had told him this, Jesus replied, "Who is my mother and who are my brothers and sisters?" And pointing to his disciples, he said, "Here are my mothers and my brothers and my sisters. For whoever does the will of my Father in heaven is my brother and sister and mother." And so I chose that because we are indeed his sisters, and he acknowledges us as his disciples and his workers here on earth for him. Let us pray. O God, you took upon you the yoke of humility and the burden of love, and didn't always find it easy. Let us learn from you to share the weight of all this aching world, that our souls may be light and our hearts rested, as together we work with you and others for others who are hurting. May we always be carried by you in Jesus Christ and filled with your love by the Holy Spirit. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you, Jan. So now it's my pleasure to introduce Wendy Thompson. So Wendy is the board chair of Nest Collective, a charitable organisation that is really focused on families where there is a need for the 0 to up to 3 years old. And I think it's wonderful that they take pre-loved items, the toys, the books, and clothing. And I think it's also wonderful, I noticed, that they encourage craft. And I'm not a crafty person, but that seems a wonderful thing as well. Wendy has a lot of experience in the charity organisations. She's been very involved for many of years. She trained as a pharmacist and has worked in hospitals here and in the UK. And I was incredibly impressed, Wendy, to read that when you became board, the chair of the board, that you went and got further qualifications, you could almost say. And that was very, very interesting, very impressive. So, Wendy, it's my great pleasure to welcome you. So please just give Wendy a good clap because it's wonderful to have her here.
Right, just give me a millisecond to get my notes out here. Kia ora koutou. Hello, good morning, everyone. It's lovely to be here. Thank you for Roberta for the invite. Thank you, Peg, for the IT, because, you know, IT is not my skill set. As Roberta said, my name's Wendy. I'm the chair of the board. The original invitation was to the Christchurch branch. It's not their favourite thing to do, come and talk at places. They'd rather make the packs. So because I live in Christchurch, they twisted my arm, and here I am. So is that still working? I didn't touch anything. As Roberta says, no? Okay, I'll just keep talking because you can probably hear me okay? Yeah, and if it comes back, it comes back. No, you can't hear? No. Yeah, it's not. Don't touch it. No, I don't think it's.
Talking. You say
No, I know.
No, so there's some.
It's
problem
something,
over
and
there.
yeah.
God is with us. Don't
Oh, yeah. Well, I don't know if he has the IT skills actually.
Excuse me, he created.
You could just
Stick
leave
this
that
in.
there and that on there, and I'll go to my one.
Does Plan B? Hello. Hello. The light's on. There's not a volume on this thing, is there? Oh, you've got it all? Oh, it's working now. Right, previously I was the Chief Executive for Ballyful New Zealand, which you may have heard of, particularly if you've got grandchildren. And prior to that I was their Operations Manager, and prior to that I was a volunteer with the Christchurch branch. Ballyful and the Nest Collective work very much in the same space. So when it came sort of time to retire from my Ballyful role, I was really delighted that the Nest Collective asked me if I would chair their board. What brought me to Ballyful initially and then to the Nest Collective was actually realising how privileged and how lucky I am. And I'm not particularly privileged, but my husband and I lived in the UK for many, many years, and we had all our children there. Our first two were very, very premature twins, and they were born in the mid-90s. They're nearly 30 now, which is very frightening. We had no immediate family in the UK, no one that we were in touch with. We had some friends, but all of you that know, been in the UK, I'm sure in London especially, know that, you know, just because your friends are there doesn't mean they're not an hour and a half away, tube trip away from you. It's not like Christchurch. So they tried to help, but really we were on our own. The difference for us, although we had no support, is we had funds, so we could, in effect, buy what we needed. So for the Ballyful role, we could, we could buy the food that we needed. We didn't need to rely on people to bring us meals and stuff. Marks and Spencer's and takeaway curries, yeah. It was a pretty hard experience, but what it really taught me is how lucky I was and how hard it must be for whānau who lack those funds and those support systems. And so the Nest Collective, it's slightly different, but it's in that same space. Yeah? My professional background was I trained as a pharmacist, and as Roberta said, and worked for many years in hospitals in the UK, and then when we came back here in 2000, mostly in retail here. So the Nest Collective grew out of a previous charity called Little Sprouts, which was Wellington based, but served a lot of the country, mainly, but not completely, the North Island. Little Sprouts, for their own reasons, decided to close down during COVID, but our Natalia, who's the current Nest Collective CE, and our current Auckland branch manager, Libby, didn't want that to happen. They didn't want all that mahi wasted and the connections to go. So after, actually, when I look back at it, a massive amount of work, during COVID, during the lockdowns, the Nest Collective was born, again during 2020. The next slide, please. Peg, the next slide. Yep. Oh, it's up. Oh, okay. Right. Oh, right. Okay, thank you. Right. Hadn't even noticed that. Right. So before we get started, I just want to share some stats with you, just to paint a picture. These are from the budget report in May, released by the Minister of Finance. So this slide shows our child poverty reduction targets. Okay. At the Nest Collective, it's the material hardship line, which is the top line that we're particularly interested in. So the target for 23-24 was 9%. That's the proportion of children living in households in material hardship. It's interesting to see that the target increases to 11%. So more children will be living in material hardship before it drops to 6% in 2028. Okay, next slide. So I have to remember to change my own slide here. So I think this one speaks for itself. Things are not improving. The target was 9%. We achieved 13.4%. Now, I'm not taking a political stand or making any political comment here, and this data has its limitations, but we have a problem in New Zealand when 13% of our precious children live in material hardship. I think it's also important to note, and it's not shown on there, that the rates for Tamariki Māori are 23.9%, and Pacific children 28.7%. They're facing disproportionately higher rates, much higher, like 10% and more higher rates of material hardship. Finally, for the stats, this is the forecast. The targets are the crosses, but the blue forecast line is not heading down. That one. Yeah, you see the big fat blue, even with the margins of error, it's still heading way in the wrong way. So that's just to paint a picture of the world we're working in. Right. Next slide, please. So the Nest Collective has a huge, lofty, aspirational vision. Every baby in Aotearoa, New Zealand deserves the best start in life. Now, obviously, very obviously, this is more than a small charity can achieve by itself. After all, it takes a large village, a very large village, to raise a child. We're just a tiny cog, one cog in that village, and our focus is very squarely, our lane is on whānau under stress and in need. Okay, next slide. So we're a charitable trust, branches right across the motu. Each branch is run by volunteers with a local volunteer branch manager. Currently we have, give or take, around 150 volunteers across the motu, which includes our 13 branch and co-branch managers. We use couriers, which currently at the moment we have a semi sort of grant thing that means that they're free from New Zealand Post to support families in rural or remote areas. so from Christchurch, we have supported families in Kaikoura, the West Coast, Marlborough and South Canterbury. And then the sort of North Otago, South Canterbury border area is met by our Dunedin branch. Kaikoura in particular was really interesting because they said to it, they were so excited, like the nursing and the midwifery staff, when we said we could help. They were like dancing in the streets excited, so slightly over the top. So nobody brings services here. We don't have any services, you know. Like, for example, Ballyful does not deliver to Kaikoura. And lots of those other not-for-profit charitable services don't work out of the big cities or in their close environs. So Kaikoura, which is actually relatively isolated, has quite a big population of families under stress, and they get very few services. It was really interesting. Okay, next slide, please. So we have a board of 7 who have a very wide range of expertise and experience. 4 of our trustees are new, and we had our first strategy meeting with those new trustees just the 18th of October, just a couple of weeks ago. This picture is of 5 of us, and obviously me, and our CE Natalia, who is on who's that side? The other 2 trustees, one lives in Singapore at the moment, and one lives in Barcelona. So they're not in that picture, but they attend our meetings remotely. And actually when we meet, apart from once a year, we always meet remotely. But for that particular day, the one in Barcelona was up till 2 in the morning, and the one in Singapore had to get up at 4 in the morning. So, you know, they're volunteers. They've both got really big jobs that have mean they've been transferred to these places, and yet they're still making that commitment. The Nest Collect is managed by a tiny team of 5 paid staff who are in Wellington, Nelson, Auckland. They work just on 0.7 of a full-time equivalent between in total. So we run a really lean machine. We don't have much staff. Now I have one copy, because honestly that's all we could afford to print, of our, it's just here, 24 performance report, which what I'll do is I'll bring that with me, and just for you to pass around and flick through while I'm talking. Currently our strategy revolves around 3 pillars: sustainable growth, building a profile, and strengthening relationships. But at the meeting just a couple of weeks ago, we are in the middle of updating it for the next 3 to 5 years, so it might change subtly, but that's the principles of our strategy. There's a structure. So the paid positions are the brown ones, and the black ones are the volunteer roles. So what we do. Next slide. Yeah. We provide packs of new, pre-loved, handcrafted and repurposed essentials, including clothing, toys, nappies, bedding. Our packs are designed to cover items needed for the first year of life. And on the table there's 2 boxes, which is 1 pack, just for you to have a look through and have a look at. On request, we can provide extras like cots and safe sleeping spaces, premature baby clothing, if we have it available in the branch. These packs are provided for free to families via, and this is another place where we differ from Ballyful. In Ballyful, they deliver the meals to the families by volunteers, which is a massive health and safety issue, etc. We do it via social workers, kaiawhina, midwives, nurses, and other local community partners. So our volunteers don't drive to the houses with these packs. They're delivered by those people I just listed. And one of the big advantages is it's a really happy thing for the family. A lot of these families are very, very suspicious of anything sort of official. And getting a pack makes them happy, and it gives another opportunity for the midwife or the social worker to interact with the family and offer other services that they may have declined before. And that's another reason why we don't have any government contracts, and we probably never will, because there's huge suspicion in these families that if we have to give our data to the government, which you do, a rangatamariki is going to find out this information, and they don't trust, for their own reasons, that their personal information would be kept private. They think it would be shared. So if we don't have any government contracts and we're not funded by the government, we can say, no, not us. Next slide, please. So sustainability is one of our key things that we're most proud of, really. We reuse and recycle gently used essential baby items whenever possible. We try not to buy too much. Our volunteers wash and sort donated items ready for the packs. We also have a group of volunteers who are avid op shop shoppers, and there's op shops all over the country that keep stuff aside for us, so they get nice little baby stuff that they don't actually even put out for sale. They keep it aside for us, which is really cool. We also, though, do need to purchase some items, and each pack costs us around $160 of purchase items, including the packaging. So we have to buy the boxes and the labels and stuff. We guesstimate, because it's really hard to know, each pack has a retail value of around $1,500, though how do you put a price on this when you look at the packs, the handcrafted stuff? It's saying that this little cardigan that one of you lovingly knitted over many, many hours is worth the same as the one that you can go and buy off the shelf in Farmers is not an accurate way of pricing it, but at the moment we have no other way of doing that. So the packs provide more or less everything that is required for the first year of life, so 365 days, I guess, which is a third of those critical first 1,000 days. This is how the system works. So donations, we receive the new items or the recycled items or the donated items. They're washed, checked, sorted by our volunteers. So some volunteers are the washing, some will put it all together, some will check that they're, all the domes are there and everything's safe. The community partner separately is out in the community and identifies a family in need. And sends us a request form, an online request form. And on that they can list specific needs. They can say it's for a boy, or they can say we don't know, we don't know what the sex is going to be. It's for twins, in which case they get 2 packs. Or the baby's very premature, so we need small, or this particular family, and the referrers are very good at saying things like this particular family already has a blah blah blah, so we don't need that in the pack, which is really good because that saves us tons of money. And then the community partner usually picks the pack up from our depot, depending on the branch. In some cases, like in Christchurch, they deliver the packs to Christchurch Women's Hospital foyer, but the vast majority are picked up by the community partner from our depots. And then the family, without fail, are overwhelmed and very, very happy when they receive these packs. And it helps the baby get a good start. So why does this matter? Why do we do this? As a country, we are failing to meet our child poverty targets each year. 1 in 7 children live in households reporting material hardship. Material, the stuff, matters. A lack of essentials items adds stress, adds pressure. Mothers feel that they're unable to provide for their baby. They feel shame, they feel judged. All of these things combined increase postpartum depression rates among low-income mothers and among Maori and Pacific mothers as well. This affects bonding and affects children's development. So it's just stuff, really, it's just 2 boxes of stuff, but that's really important stuff and it has far-reaching effects. The other reason it matters is it's a sustainable change. It's excess baby items, you know. If you're like I was, any of you, or your children, when you have your first baby, you get so much stuff. So many stretch and grows and cardigans and booties, and the babies grow really, really quickly, and they wear them once or twice, and maybe if you have another child and they might get a little bit of wear then, but really they're very lightly used generally, particularly in the first 3 to 6 months. What happens to a lot of this stuff is it just ends up in the landfill. So the more we can reuse, the more sustainable, reusable products like nappies and wipes and breast pads that we can supply, the better it is for everyone, right? Not just the families that we're helping. Another major stressor for families expecting a baby is feeling unprepared. So we aim to provide the packs well in advance of birth, so mum and dad know that they have everything they need when the baby comes home. But I am surprised at the amount of emergency packs we are providing, and there was an article and stuff about this recently, about the number of pregnant women who are not receiving any antenatal care, and the first anybody knows about them is when they turn up at the hospital in labour. And this is an access issue and a finance issue as well. So we will provide emergency packs to the hospitals because nobody's seen this mother until they turn up and deliver the baby. Every single family we support are struggling financially, but there is a range of intersecting factors contributing to this. Young age, drugs, alcohol, family harm incidents, preterm births, etc. I just have to give a shout out to our Wellington branch. They're not here, but you may know someone in Wellington. They have a man who is really good at checking cots and safe sleeping spaces, because it's really tricky to pass them on. A donated cot has to be a safe item to pass on to another family, and to do that we need someone to check it. And there's not lots of these people around who are willing to be that person who will take that responsibility for checking these cots are safe. But they have a guy who does this. He checks, he fixes cots, prams and bassinets. Most op shops won't accept these items anymore, so once they're used, you can't, unless you've got a friend to give them to, you can't get rid of them. So if we could do that in all our branches, it would be amazing, but we need those people who will do that checking of the safety of them. The other issue is that cots and prams take up space, and a lot of our branches just don't have the space in their depots to store items like that. So all these stresses I've talked about means that many of these young families face impossible choices. The power bill versus, and particularly at the moment, the power bill versus food, rent versus warm clothing. It's very difficult for them. So this, as I said before, this material stuff makes a difference. It's at least $1,500 at least that they don't have to spend, and it matters. So we work with many organisations and the community partners across the whole motu. This is just a tiny sample that I could find pretty pictures of that fitted on the slide. But there's hundreds, and you'll see in the report there's a list, there's hundreds and hundreds of them. All of these people refer relatively regularly to us. In Canterbury, this is the list as at the beginning of this year. I haven't actually updated that one, but it's, and you'll see there's quite a wide variety of different organisations that refer to us. It's not just Orangata Mariki and the social workers there. So, just to change tack slightly, over the last year, actually at the request of and funded by one of our funders, we've been running a small impact survey with our community partners and recipients. So for us, impact as so you'll see in the report, we've got lots of numbers, but measuring the impact that PAC makes is really challenging, as we don't have direct contact with the recipients. We don't collect information about the recipients that enables us to contact them. So we get no phone number, no email, no address. We get a name, the stage of the pregnancy, the sex, if appropriate, of the baby, if there's more than one baby, and that's about it. So this funder said to us, well, if you want any more money, you have to tell us what your impact is. How are we going to do that? We don't. So luckily one of the trustee who actually lives in Barcelona is a family research expert. Perfect. And she's got a lot of experience in this area. And she helped us design a survey that went out in the pack. So it was like a postcard size thing with a QR code on it, because these people are all very IT savvy, that the families can scan and fill in the survey, and it's completely anonymous. We don't ask for any name, anything like that. We've had pretty good response rate, not 100%, probably near 50%, but that's, in this type of survey, is pretty good. So this is just one of the comments from one of the community partners about the impact of that came back as a result of this impact survey. There's lots more comments in that annual report, and if you're interested in seeing the full annual report, I can get Peg to email it to you if you're interested. So our output since we started, so mid-2020, and that year was pretty quiet while they got established, but 500,000 baby items given, 173 community partners, and I think that's closer to 180 now. In that impact survey we did, 100% of the families agreed or strongly agreed that receiving a pack made them feel supported. 3,350 packs as at May gifted. Approximately 16, and I know I said we have 150 volunteers earlier on. We have a group called the Nest Makers, which I'll come to later, which brings our total volunteer numbers to 1,650. And 98% of community partners said they believe these packs have a significant impact on the lives of the baby and the whānau. And the 2% that didn't say that were ones that sort of didn't fill in the survey properly. The busiest branch in the country is Wellington, and I mean, they've just been incredible with the amount of demand they have. They've provided 1,349 packs to the community. They used to do 50 a quarter. Now they're doing 120 a quarter, 140% increase in 4 years. I've got a piece of feedback from an Auckland social worker. I just want to read to you. It's a few lines, so be patient. I just wanted to pass on very fresh appreciation of the impact Nest Collective continues to have. I had the privilege of ensuring baby packs plus a brand new boxed buggy were picked up yesterday afternoon, so the branch purchased that buggy. The gratitude this mother felt is difficult to fit into words, but I did want to acknowledge the impact of the gift a brand new buggy makes for many families. It is the only large new item they have had for a long time. It and the packs encourage and reassure mums who often feel a lot of shame and avoid health services. It gives a lift to our social workers, which is impact we hadn't thought of. It gives a lift to our social workers when we often have sad and distressed families filling our days. The impact also goes way beyond mum and baby, as for example, yesterday extended family arrived to help pick up the boxes and buggy, and they too were somewhat stunned that this was given for baby. Any gesture that encourages families with newborn babies to reach out to health services when they need it is so valuable. Thanks, team. So, there's a few more facts on our 24 impact. 1,082 packs in the year, 160,000 items, and 100% of recipients feeling supported. So I just briefly want to talk about the nest makers. So where do we get this stuff from? We have this amazing community group of crafters, which I am not a member of. I do not knit or crochet or sew. They sew, they crochet, they knit, or they craft baby items that go into every bag, from bibs to booties and burkoffs to blankets to cardigans and change mats. These items are highly valued and ensure babies are warm and well. We currently have about 1,500 crafters across the country, actually I think it's slightly more than that now, who are connected in person. So in some communities they have knitting groups, and via a private Facebook group. We're always looking for new people to join that. Some people do 1 or 2 items a year, some do, seems like 1 or 2 a day, so the amount you contribute is totally and utterly up to you. We also have some funding to pay for some of the, like the wool and the fabrics and stuff. And there's just a couple of screenshots from the very active nest makers group of some of the stuff that they've done. You can, if you search on Facebook the nest makers, you can find the group really easily. And finally, I haven't got a very exciting, well that's a beautiful slide, but I just want to talk about funding because you're probably thinking where do you get your money from? You can see in the financials at the back of the annual report last year that it cost us about $275,000. It's nothing to operate for the year. So $275,000, $162,000 of this was the cost of packs donated to whānau. $57,400 was rent. So all our branches operate out of like the equivalent of small warehouses or larger spaces in community houses. Christchurch is in community house in Litchfield Street. And the final large cost is salaries, and that was only $44,000. So we run a pretty lean machine. We're predominantly grant funded, but I'm first to say that we need desperately to diversify our income streams. Funding at the moment is, for everyone, is super challenging. You know, it's not exactly great economic times. We've seen a few charities closing their doors in the similar space to us as they lose significant contracts, particularly those who are very reliant on government contracts have been closing, or their funding was one funder who just withdrew the funding because they can't afford it anymore. overall, the funders, whether it's the gaming trusts or like Rata Foundation in the South Island, they just don't seem to have as much money to distribute, yet demand is growing across all sectors. Just as a aside, I have a second gig, a paid gig for a few hours a week as a helping the admin in an environmental group in the Marlborough Sounds, and funding in that space is equally as bad. It's just, there's just not as much money circulating as there used to be. Our main difficulty is really boring. It's the operational funding, salaries. Boring stuff like IT, insurance, travel, volunteer appreciation. Funding for PAC contents is actually relatively easy, and mainly because we can take a photo of it. The board as a whole, we're watching our numbers very closely and trying to diversify our income streams and support our staff to do this as much as possible. But I'm not going to lie, it's actually not easy. And that's all I've got on my slides. Got any questions? Because I think I've got a little bit of time. Or anything I didn't explain very well, actually. Yeah.
Wendy, if people either watching online or here know of people that have got items that are pre-loved that they're happy to give to this, what do you think the easiest way for them to get, the items to you?
Are they like, where are people watching from? The South Island? Or Canterbury, right? So the easiest way is to contact the Christchurch branch of the Nest Collective, and we have collection places, don't ask me where they are, around the city. I know there's one out in Rangiora. I'm pretty sure there's one in Ashburton, Timaru. Some of them are shops, some of them are people's houses where you can drop stuff off. Or, because we have this New Zealand Post courier funding, we can, if you live somewhere in the middle of nowhere, you can courier stuff, and we can provide the information you need for that. So the easiest way to do that is to go to the Nest Collective website, and you'll see on the pages, look for Christchurch, and then contact Christchurch. And depending on where you are, they will tell you where the nearest collection point is. Well, no, because it means we have to give out people's personal phone numbers, so we try not to, yeah. And we don't have an 0800 number because they cost quite a lot of money. So it's best to email, or if you are on any social media, particularly Facebook or Instagram, you can message directly to one of our staff members who monitors that on there, and they will come back to you with a link with the list of collection places. Yep. Knitworld, yes, I think. Yeah, so now you're seeing the difference between the manager of the Christchurch branch and the board chair. I think so. It's a familiar name, yeah. It may well be, but I am not guaranteeing that at the moment, yeah. Oh yes, you're more than welcome to go to Community House, but they're not there. The people in the Nest Collective aren't there 5 days a week, 9 to 5, but there is someone at reception who will take drop-offs and stuff for the Nest Collective. So what happens in the, actually you've just made me realise I haven't said that in my slides, in the either the warehouses or the community spaces where the Nest Collective they have like shelving and boxes, and in all the boxes they might have, newborn hats, 3-month booties, blankets, boxes, all beautifully labelled and organised, and they have packing days or packing times, and so they get their volunteers in and they will pack up, maybe depending what the demand is and how busy they are, a number of their packs ready to be delivered. Or some of the, like Dunedin, which is a relatively new branch, they wait till they get a referral, then they call in a couple of packers and come in and pack for that referral. But Christchurch, they always have emergency packs ready to deliver, particularly to the Christchurch Women's. And so they're not there all the time, but you are welcome to drop stuff off at Community House at reception if there's no one in the Nest Collective office. Yeah. It's on Litchfield Street on the Fitzgerald side of the stadium, the new stadium. So that, you know, the stadium is cuts through Litchfield Street now, so you sort of have to go round, and it's just on the left, and it's really obvious. Got a big sign, Community House. It's got lots of charities, like Volunteering Canterbury's in there, and lots of small charities are based in Community House. I think it's really close to the stadium. It's maybe. Oh, the Mediterranean Warehouse. Yeah. It's a cool place, actually. It's very cool. Pub charity, yes. So, this is a dilemma that I would think every single charitable social services charity is, where our moral line sits as a organisation. In the ideal world, I would take zero money from gambling and alcohol. You don't get offered it from smoking, so it's not an issue. I would take zero. But in reality, we have no option. There is not enough funding anywhere else. And at least they can do something to help fix the harm they cause. I think you'd find it very hard to find anyone who agrees with taking it from gambling places, but there are no other options. It's really tough. You know? Rata and some of the philanthropic sort of private trusts do as well as they can, but they don't have enough money to give out. I mean, Rata is just slammed because people would rather apply to Rata or NICA or the Auckland Foundation than to the gambling trusts. But they get so oversubscribed that we have no choices. It's the same with, and we've done it once or twice, selling like wine where you get maybe $1 or $2 a bottle, yet so much of the harm caused in our families is from alcohol. But our supporters like to have a glass of wine, and if we can get $3 from that, it's very difficult. And someone said to me, well, your moral line surely is if it's legal, you take money from it. So prostitution's legal. Do we take, if Calendar Girls, for example, decided to do a fundraiser for us, would we take money from Calendar Girls? Smoking's legal. Would we take money from smokers? I'm not sugarcoating it at all. It's a very, very difficult conversation that many, many boards have. And I don't know what the answer is to that. Yeah. Sorry, I'm not going to take money from pub charity, which means that we can't supply so many packs because we can't get it from anywhere else. Is it better to, let them fix some of the harm they cause? Or it's not an easy, it is a really difficult conversation. Yeah.
The diocesan synod moved some years ago not to support, not to take money from the casino that would come into it, but the one-armed bandits did.
Yeah.
But there was
You may have seen the conversation, I guess, in the media and the reporting about the online gambling just recently. So the minister responsible decided that they were going to license online gambling to a number of, so rather than it all going offshore, they would be able to operate in New Zealand. Whatever, I don't particularly agree with that, but that's what the government decided they were going to do. But what they, at the moment, if you go into a hotel and put your money into one of the one-armed bandits, a percentage goes to, they have to pay a percentage to the pub charity and grassroots and all of those charitable trusts. Well, those that they give the money to the charitable trust. But these online gambling ones weren't going to be required to do that. And the sports clubs particularly, who are completely dependent on these gambling trusts, they really, really objected big time. They got together, they submitted, there was petitions, there was submitters that went to the committee stage, and just last week the government's backtracked and have agreed that these online casinos, I guess they are going to have to pay 4% into a trust for charitable purposes, which is actually a huge win for the community sector. It's really good. It's not good that they're having those casinos, but it's good that at least they're having to contribute to the funding pool. And that might slow down the amount of money that goes to overseas gambling, because that's why also one of the reasons we're noticing less money around is people actually aren't going to the pubs anymore and as much and putting the money in the machines. They're doing it at home on overseas. So pub charity, etc., don't have as much money because they're not getting. Lotto as well. Last year we were told they had a 45% reduction in available funding from lotteries, which is massive. It's nearly 50%. And the email was basically, don't hold your breath. You're not going to get what you apply for. Expect to get at least 50% less, which is what happened. And the same in my other role, in the environmental role. It was just we got zero when we got nearly 200,000 the year before. It was incredible. And that's because people aren't buying as many lotto tickets despite the jackpot being whatever it is at the moment. It's interesting. It's interesting times.
Do the hospitals, the maternity hospital here, do they ever contact you?
Oh, Christchurch Women's all the time. Yeah, all the time. Yeah, that's probably, actually it's probably the biggest referrer to Christchurch, because they're right at the coalface. Yeah. All the time, constant. Okay, any more questions?
I think we've come to the end of our time. Thank you. I have one question.
I have some brochures, actually, that you're welcome to take. Yeah.
Takeaway message for us today about how women of our generation, or our family and friends, how are we best to help?
Spread the word, particularly if you've got children and grandchildren who are having babies and have got excess items that they don't want anymore, that we are around and we will take their items. Contacts, on the same, particularly funding contacts, if you happen to be related to the head of the really big because those private philanthropic trusts who fund a lot are really hard. They generally, you don't apply to them, they come to you, and the only way you get known to them generally is they don't sit there on the internet looking up charities. They wait till their grandma or their sister or their, someone they're working with. Have you heard of this place? So if you know anyone in that space, talk about us. And if you're really good at knitting and crocheting and sewing and you're interested in joining the nest makers, or you know someone who likes just to knit and would be interested, refer them to the Facebook group's the easiest way to contact them. Yeah. Cool.
Will people that are watching online be able to, well, they can't see your PowerPoint?
Yes, I think the magic peg is going to organise to send out those slides.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
No, thank you.
We've learned a lot. I think I knew that I wanted to hear you, and I hope other people here feel the same, but it's incredibly worthwhile listening to what you do. And I love, as I said in my introduction, that it's repurposed, reloved.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Things, as well as the new. So,
Thank you.
Here was just a small gift for
You didn't need to do that.
And yes, don't fall off the
Don't
step.
fall off the step.
And
Yeah.
there's something edible there. I hope I got.
Oh, I always say something edible. Thank you. I'll take this one. Now, actually, I'll put some brochures out on this table out here, and you're welcome to have a look through the packs. Yeah.
You are staying, aren't you, for lunch?
Yeah, I can do that. Yeah.
So people can chat to you.
Yeah. I'll just put something down.
Mute it.
Yes.
Look at this one. I'm only up for 2 seconds.
That's fine. Oops,
Is that off now?
it's not working.
Okay. I just want to remind you that we do have a koha, which is great. We go, in our committee meetings, we decide where the money is going to go to. So please, Peg, it's down the back, is it? The dish?
The koha is just in the front foyer, but we'll bring it into here now.
Thank you. So we're going to hear from our overseas and outreach. Is it Raywin first? Yeah, indeed, a couple of minutes. Now? Yep. It's a big.
It seems to me it's ridiculous to use a microphone when you all hear it.
But Raymond, they won't be able to hear you on the live stream.
You want it to record me?
It's still going because the meeting is still going. So yes, wear that and you need to stand at the mic as well.
Always do what
Thank you, Raymond.
I'm just aware of distance when you're engaging with people, how difficult, am I too loud? How difficult it is to actually have your heart activated. Hello, my love.
Hello.
Do I have to wear a thingy?
I think Peg wants you to, yes.
I would like you to.
I do what I'm
This is-
told.
Yep. I can turn you down later.
I'm sucking a throat thing, which is nearly finished.
There you go.
Thank you, Peggy. You're a lovely woman. God bless us all. Am I allowed to put things on here, or will the church... Okay, I don't want to destroy the church in any way. So I'm Raywin, and I'm in my last months as your National Overseas and Outreach Convener. Woo, woo. I've had someone in the wings ever since I was due to step down, only her husband is not well, which is a story I speak very well. So I've asked someone else, and she's praying about it. So don't fear that you're going to have me ad nauseam talking about missions. I will always be talking about missions, but I won't always be in your face, as it were. So I was asked, the headline was, Raywin do a catch-up on where we are at with our clean-up kits for Fiji task. So I never know. The boss of our New Zealand AAW money is the wonderful, illustrious Judith Mackenzie. And the last time I had the honour of speaking with her, hi Jude, it was about 4,000 that had been gathered.
I checked it today.
Bless you.
It's nearly 5,000. It's 4,900.
Excellent. My aim was 10,000. The actual price, the price of a filled container box, filled with tools, so the boss of Anglican Missions told me, was about 13,000. And he said, do what you can towards it, and we'll do the rest. So if we do what we can. Now, I want to show you this map. I love maps. I don't know if you're into maps or not. Voila. So I've got two hands. I'm wonderful. You can all see it, can't you? Of course you can. Thank you. This is my charming assistant, Anne. It's like when you throw darts, you know, in a circus. It's important to me that we identify with the people of Fiji. Do you happen to realise that in New Zealand we're in two main islands? Which island is the superior? Don't be too democratic and nice. Of course the South Island is better, isn't it? And that's how they think in Fiji. They think that the South Island, where Suva is, which is their Wellington and Auckland equivalent, is of course more important. And so the Northern Island, where the racially dependent Indians live, is much less important. And so they get, the broken end of the stick always. And so I'm always about the underdog. What I want to say to you is do what you can before the end of January. Don't think about it next February, March, April. Finish this appeal by the end of January, and that will help us know what is coming, because then the new person will have a new project to inspire you. Thank you. I don't want to have you standing up. You go and rest yourself. So it helps me to look at the map. I have advertised that there'll be a container at Sabu Sabu. I may be wrong, I'm told. It may be at Lambasa, which is much bigger, but still in the Northern Island, okay? It's not a bit like Ireland, island of the Fiji Islands. There are hundreds of islands, but it's huge. My main thing I wanted to say today was not really about the money. I've given a whole list of different fundraising ideas to the people of New Zealand, but I'm so impressed by sort of the ripple effect, you know what I mean, don't you, of how much money we give. If you take the Suva canteen, I just got a letter back yesterday from the principal. I wrote her a personal letter of thanks as ex-principal to present principal, and saying how hard it is, and I know, to actually write backwards for such a small thing as a group in New Zealand and say thank you to them, which she had done, and put a plaque up saying, this canteen comes with love from the NZAAW. I love seeing that. But to take the trouble to tell us and send us a photo, I don't mind how long it takes. She's exceptional in communicators in Fiji. Because I love feedback, don't you? And the ripple effect of our sending money is, in Fiji, the AAW of St. Mark's, she told me, where I used to go when I was working there like a slave, they are now looking after it. It's not mothers of the children. The AAW of St. Mark's, which are a suburb of Suva, are looking after the canteen and feeding the children. And the school is renting the canteen to them to do that. Isn't that clever? So I think that's really great. The whole character of the ripple is AAW, from go to woe, and I like that. When you consider the Ruwenzori appeal more recently, just last year, it only just finished, I think, in about August this year, didn't it, Jude? Money just kept coming on and coming in. People got so inspired by it. I was told off at the conference that it wasn't practical enough, but people still felt inspired enough to raise over 13,000. And I think, no, that's incredible. And if you want to correct me anytime, Jude, feel free to do so. But I think, no, that's amazing to more than reach our target. And I love the Suva idea. And I love the Ruwenzori whole clinic, change of life. And I love the clean-up kits because it is practical. I responded to criticism by getting shovels and hard hats and work gloves. And my motto, you know how I was singing about Ruwenzori, very unmusically, my motto for the clean-up kits around the country has been, build the box, fill the box, hope, help Fiji cope with crisis. So I like the idea, we're building the container box, and then we're filling it with what they need, and it's such a practical help for Fiji, because are they going to have crises? And I've got presents for you. Warning, Peggy, I'm about to leave the microphone. Woo! Ow. Nothing serious. I didn't see that step. Pick up photos first. The radio mic is not hurt, I'm pleased to say. How was it attached to me?
On your blouse.
The whole thing, was it?
No, it was just on the mic.
Ow.
How is your rib?
Pardon?
How is your, right there?
Sore.
Do you need some ice?
No.
Okay.
I'm incredibly fast healing.
Good.
I had COVID 2 weeks ago and now I'm all better. I wanted to show you, I have used PowerPoints occasionally. I can hold it, my love. Put it in again. If it hurts, it hurts. I'm a farmer's daughter.
There you go.
There we go. This is Holy Trinity Cathedral in Suva, where, of course, because it's in Suva, they've got a container. This is the container being built out in the yard. I played the organ there. Woo, woo, woo. I was the first lay woman ever to preach in Holy Trinity Cathedral. Woo. On Mother's Day or some such, kitsch thing. But it just shows you, that Suva gets everything. And I asked for, I got this one myself. What I asked for, I didn't get. You can pass this round. It was actually in the newsletter I sent round, a map of the Northern Ireland, showed you where Saibu was, shows you where Lambasa is, if they decide to move it. I'm sorry about this. If they decide to move it to Lambasa, it's still within Kui of that. And these are what I asked for details, and they sent me these. Are there different groups here? If you want to put one up on your notice board, these are presents from me to you. That's not very exciting, but I quite like this picture. It's got hard hats in it. And it reminds you it's one by one by one by one that people are dug out, isn't it? Anyone wants to generate? Anyone feeling tired? I just thought you might like a laminated photo for your church notice board to help encourage people. If you've already given 5,000, forget it. If you've given anything and you feel that you've closed, I don't want you to keep encouraging people until next Christmas. Christmas, next. But I just thought sometimes a little photograph can help people. It took me ages to realise what that was. I had it like that. I'm very slow. And lots of these have been in clever things that Roberta's done. So they're buying them in new and good quality. Anglican missions are the key words.
Thank you.
That all makes sense? Thank you for your money, for your generosity, for your giving. I'm going to tidy up my mess and not fall down. One mess, two mess. Thank you, table. Paper bag. You need to take a radio off me.
I will.
I'm going to say thank you.
You're going to say thank you. How nice. I say pleasure.
No, thank you. I'm just touching your bottom.
Very exciting for you.
Now,
Most,
we're carrying on?
yes.
No, you be very careful of that step, because of course we're going to have a child say to Raven.
I'm just going to stick that, how's that?
Oh no, not that one. Treat the step with respect. I know I'm going to be hard to listen to. This is all the voice I have, but I hope you can still hear it. Good, thank you. Now we just need to wait for our techie lady to begin our presentation. By way of introduction, I am the Diocesan Overseas and Outreach Coordinator. Raywin is the national, I am the diocesan, and my experience comes from when I was a mission partner with the New Zealand Church Missionary Society, both in Pakistan and more recently in Cambodia. And there is a personal journey that goes along with this, and so I won't say more now. I will elaborate when I see what the slides are. I have called it Cambodia Revisited and Resourced because we were there for almost 10 years. I revisited after our return 3 times, beginning of 23, 24 and 25, and now my role is here as a fundraiser and an enabler. The rest you'll pick up from the PowerPoint. Thank you, Peg. So, our journey. The hour was Anthony and I, married in 2004, headed off to Cambodia 2011, had to come back when Anthony was diagnosed with cancer. So we were in Cambodia from 2011 until the beginning of 2020. We learnt Kenyom Rian Piasa Khmer. We learnt to speak Khmer. We spent almost 2 years doing that in Phnom Penh. Then we moved to another much smaller city in the northwest called Battambang. And we both had voluntary roles because we were supported from home. We both had voluntary roles at the WorldMate Emergency Hospital in Battambang, which is a hospital for victims of landmines and also serious traffic accidents. And these are just a few photos of our early time at the hospital. We both started there in October 2014. Anthony set up a social work department there at the invitation of the hospital, social work being his most recent occupation. And I was then asked, what could I do? And so I set up a handcraft program, activity program, for the patients and the caregivers at the hospital. It had 2 elements. I'm only going to talk about this one because this is the ongoing one. We did activities with patients to help keep them occupied. We also set up a program called Tuer Dawi Dai, which means made by hand in the Khmer language. And what we did was we made paper from recycled and natural products and made them into cards and journals and books and so on. And then also, thanks to the lady in the middle of this photograph, who is my American friend Lois, she gifted a lot of jewellery makings to me, and we incorporated that. And that is still happening now with the young woman that is in the photograph with me standing up behind. I'll be talking a lot about her as we go through because it's all about people and connections. So Anthony was diagnosed in Cambodia with lymphoma. We unexpectedly came back to New Zealand at the beginning of 2020. Thankfully, we got in 2 weeks before COVID hit. And we were here and he was straight into hospital. However, we had an altered diagnosis which meant his cancer was a lot more serious than lymphoma. He actually had stage 4 pancreatic cancer. And so he embarked on treatment, and we had amazing results from that. In a very short time, his cancer markers came down, and the oncologist was standing there with his mouth wide open. He couldn't believe it. So after exhausting all the possibilities in the public system, we switched to private treatment, which was treatment we couldn't afford at $3,600 a week. However, we serve a faithful God, and we were able to continue chemotherapy as long as he was well enough to have it, and he died in May 2021, 1 month to the day after his 65th birthday. Eventually, I got to go back to Cambodia because we had left very suddenly. We didn't have time to pack up our house or anything. We just had to go. It was 6 weeks from when we knew we were coming to when he was admitted to hospital. 6 days. 6 days. So there was work for me to do, things to finish up. Because of COVID and my need for back surgery, I never actually made it back until the beginning of 2023. And I've been back at the beginning of the last 3 years for a month at a time. And that in itself has been an amazing experience. And so my role now is involvement with these two named things here, Healthy and Sustainable Villages Cambodia and the Light of Hope Legacy. And basically it's a fundraising role for me now. Thank you, Peg. Healthy and Sustainable Villages Cambodia is nothing official at all. It is a name that an Australian lady with whom I've been closely associated, called Jenny from Melbourne, she said, we need something to hang this on. What are we going to call it? And she said, well, our aim is to make healthy, sustainable villages, starting with working in 3 villages in particular, and they are all villages with which Anthony and I have had personal involvement. So Jenny also had this bright idea of wanting to start a legacy fund to remember Anthony, and also another Australian lady called Carolyn English, and she used to go to Cambodia for 6 months every year and went to Battambang and volunteered in various places. She was a close friend of Jenny's. She died in 2016, 3 weeks before she was due to go back to Cambodia. So Jenny wanted to honour her work and my husband's work as well. But we weren't setting out, we have no official status whatsoever yet. Maybe one day, but it would be a long way down the track. But we are working in partnership with a number of existing organisations and projects in Battambang. We are not seeking to reinvent the wheel. We are using the expertise of Lighthouse Battambang, from which the Light of Hope Legacy term, which Jenny coined, comes. The Clean Water and Toilet Project, which is the baby of a gentleman called Daryl from Queensland, from Brisbane. And we are using the expertise of Dr. Simon Stock from the Worldmate Emergency Hospital, who has agreed to address medical needs in Battambang amongst the villages where we're working. And who else? Oh, and the church, Cambodian Christian Church. That was our church in Cambodia, and a lot of the people in the village that I'm about to talk to you about they attend that church. I've already told you that. In that picture, I and 2 close friends are standing under a tree which was planted in memory of Anthony. It's a mango tree. One of them was planted to remember Anthony, and the one next door to it was planted to remember Carolyn. And the couple on the right of the photo are Pali, who is Cambodian, the eldest daughter of our Khmer pastor, and her American husband, Chris, and you'll see them in subsequent pictures. So the villages we're working with. The first one is Pre Totang village in Battambang, which is where Chris and Pali live. I was really interested in Wendy's slide to notice that one of the groups that they work with, is grandmothers bringing up grandchildren. There's a real commonality there between what the Nest is doing and what Chris and Pali are doing. Why are widows bringing up grandchildren, grandmother widows bringing up grandchildren? Because the adult children have disappeared to Thailand to raise, to get a better paid job and send the money back to the families in Cambodia. Well, that's the theory. The reality, they forget the Cambodian family, they get married again or not, but they have a relationship in Thailand, more Thai children, and forget completely about their first family. So that's why there are widow grandmothers bringing up grandchildren. In Chris and Pali's village, there are 82 families, and 40 of them have been identified as the poorest of the poor. The first thing that Chris and Pali did was to set up something called the Cambodian Children's Hope Ministry, and I was involved with that when I lived in Battambang. And they bring children from that village in every Saturday afternoon, well, most Saturday afternoons, and they basically do what we might call a good news club. They have activities, games, they teach them scriptures, they teach them songs, and when they learn songs, they learn them in both Khmer and English. They may not understand what they're singing, but they know how to do it. And so that was the first ministry that they were doing. It wasn't long before the grandmothers wanted to come along to see why the kids were having such fun and why did they want to come every week. So they then started the ministry to the widows in those same families. So all of them, any who want to, both children and grandparents, attend the Sunday service at the Cambodian Christian Church. And one of the main outreaches is that Youth with a Mission in Battambang, which has a huge campus in the city, they now go in every week on a Friday and they do a Bible study with the widows. So it has a spiritual component as well. I've already told you about what they're doing. This is just a few photos of it happening. The one I will mention is, now I've got to turn it around, don't I? The one with the little girl hanging up something that's white and pink. That is, they are clothes that have been made by a project that you might have heard of here called Dress a Girl Around the World. And the national chairperson, I suppose, of that organisation is Karen Wilson, who is in Invercargill. And several years ago, I was asked, could I take a suitcase full of clothing to Cambodia, which I did, and I have been doing ever since. It is now extended. It still is called Dress a Girl Around the World, but of course the boys were missing out. So that group now makes T-shirts and shorts for boys as well as dresses for girls. And the idea behind them, when they were first made, they were made from linen tea towels just with straps. But now they're made from cotton, and usually the people who sew them actually donate the fabric. They've always got a little pocket on the side, and in the pocket there is a new pair of knickers, and there's often a little message from whoever has made them. When I've taken them, I've tried to get that translated into Khmer, and it just says something like, "You are worth it, enjoy these products," etc. Because that program is for the poorest of the poor, the idea being that they are given to children who have maybe never had any new clothes in their life. And I am told there is a chapter operating here. I need to check up on that, but I certainly don't have time to join them. Anyway, next slide, please. Yes. And I've told you about that one already. The middle photograph there with those white bags in the middle, any ideas about what you think they might be? Bags of staple food for Cambodia? Rice. Bags of rice. During COVID, there were some projects that couldn't operate as normal, and so the funders from those projects continued to donate money, and Chris and Pali were able to buy a 50 kg sack of rice for each family each month. Sounds an awful lot of rice, but they eat rice 3 times a day. And interestingly, the Cambodian word, or the Khmer word for hungry, is Klien Bai, which literally means hungry for rice. So if they have a meal and there's no rice, they don't think they've been fed. So it really is a staple, and they go through it very quickly. And otherwise, that's just a photograph of them attending the Bible study. And the lady in the front, when I went back in 2023, she was desperately ill, and she was lying on that heavy wooden, uncomfortable platform behind her. And Pali sent me that photo to say, we have been involved with this lady, we have helped her in various ways, medically and with food, and she now has the strength to stand, because when I saw her, she hardly had the strength to open her eyes. Thank you. One of the things that Chris and Pali do for the widows, or several things they do, they often will buy a bolt of second-hand clothing, which costs $25 American, and they'll give them out to the widows, some for them, some for the children, and that's what's happening in a couple of those photos. And they sometimes take them out, they give them a treat, they take them to somewhere where they can relax in hammocks and enjoy some food that's all paid for by somebody else. And then the one in the bottom with me standing with this lady, she is remarkable. Her name is Bong, if I can get it out, Bong Kaur. She is deaf and dumb. And she doesn't stop her trying to get a message across. She gesticulates frantically, and she makes noises, but nobody can understand her. But she is a very, very good worker. So Pali and Chris, who live on a sort of a farmlet, they use her a lot to help with their watering, their planting, all sorts of things like that. And I have given her clothing. And so over there, the thing to do is have your photo taken with the foreigner, unfortunately. And so I actually have another photograph of her where she's standing with thumbs up because she's happy, because the shoes and the clothes she's wearing are ones that I gave to her. So she always gets very excited whenever I go back. As I said, it's all about people and connections and relationships. Our church, founded by Pali's father, Pastor Kiapon, and it's not a big church. He was the pastor until he turned 80, and then he handed over to one of his sons. In the smaller photo at the side, he is speaking at the memorial service, which I arranged for Anthony when I went back in 2023, because our Cambodian and foreign friends had no opportunity to acknowledge Anthony's death. And so he spoke very warmly, and the young man standing beside him is translating from Khmer into English for the benefit of the foreigners who were there. So it's quite an active church. It takes the widows and the children, and the top slide there with them in the ute. Any that want to go will be transported to the church. And the children, if they go, they almost always sing an item. The other village that I'm particularly involved in is the village of my most recent assistant in the program at the hospital. I had 3, one after the other, and the third one, her name is Kim Leang, and she lives, after I left, she kept the program going at the hospital for a while until they wanted the room back for a COVID recovery ward. So she was amongst 65 staff who were made redundant. So she went back to her village 2 hours away, near Pusat, Patrong village in the Bakan district of Pusat. And she is an amazing young woman. She is 38, she has been widowed twice, she has 2 children to 2 different fathers, an 18-year-old son and an 8-year-old daughter. She is a real entrepreneur, she works so hard. And I met her first through the organisation that we were originally with. Our tenure there didn't last as we expected because the organisation was so corrupt that we chose to leave. And she chose to leave that same organisation not long after we did. And she is a rare, honest Cambodian. Unfortunately, the corruption over there is shocking. And here she is, she's all smiles because Lois, the lady from an earlier photograph who gave all the jewellery making equipment, sent a lot of it to her. And so she's been able to complete necklaces, bracelets, earrings, all sorts of things from beads, which Lois taught her to do. And they come back here, or she sells them in Cambodia, and that's part of the fundraising. She also taught herself from YouTube to do quilled bracelets and necklaces and earrings. And when I tell you that although you can buy coloured paper in Cambodia, you can't buy it ready to quill. So she hand rules and hand cuts every last strip, which is incredible. But she does it. She also has carried on the paper making. I gave her the machine when we came home, knowing that she would involve the children that she works with in using it. She takes classes at her home in English in the after-school slot, Monday to Saturday, and she's got about 70 of them, 70 children, and she teaches them English, and her English is miles better than the English that some of the Khmer teachers attempt to teach, so she's got that as an advantage. She teaches physical fitness, she teaches organic gardening. It's all useful and, in a sense, life skills stuff. And then she does the jewellery making and the paper products. The photograph on the other side is her daughter, Bunny, wearing one of those dresser girl around the world dresses. Kim Leang is one of 6 in her family, and very unusually, she's the only one who does anything to help her parents. It's very unusual because the elderly and family are usually revered, but she has seen a lot of hardship and poverty herself. She works really hard trying to give her children a much better upbringing than she had, and she is an amazing young woman. That's her family, her family home in the top one, and then in the bottom one you can see her dad wearing a pink polo shirt and enormous glasses. And I'll just tell you that that's one of the things that Jenny and I can both do when we go to Cambodia. We take recycled glasses. Sometimes they are just hobby glasses that magnify things so they can see. Other times they manage to find a prescription pair which actually suits their eyes. And then the lady in the front is her mum. She had a stroke many years ago and was unable to walk for many years, and she passed away earlier this year. So Kim Leang was trying to support her child, look after her parents, hold down a job, do the things she was doing for me. I think she had about 48 hours in every 24. Now, here's the challenge. Legacy. It's all about what you and I leave behind when we go. And as this quote from a musician from way back in the 70s said, it's not what you take when you leave this world behind you, it's what you leave behind you when you go. And put in another way in the next slide, what you leave behind is not what is engraved in stone monuments, but what is woven into the lives of others. And that was said many years ago by Pericles, a philosopher, and that is so true. Next one. And just to make it a little more targeted to the work that we were doing, this quote was said by Gillian Bird, who is a New Zealand mission partner with Wycliffe. She and her husband Kevin are working in Battenbock, and she said, Anthony's social work units are continuing to be taught. There is a lasting legacy that we have here. In his time at the hospital and subsequently, because he moved out of the hospital when it was run, the social work department was running with Kamai staff, he wrote 50 plus modules on different topics of social work, and he worked alongside a translator whom you'll see shortly in a coming slide, and Anthony had to make sure that his translator understood the social work concepts so that he could translate accurately. Anthony delivered in English, it was translated into Khmer, and this his translator prepared Khmer PowerPoints. And so that's how his work is having an ongoing legacy, because those units were all left behind there with the translator. And interestingly, Sotia, his name is, interestingly, he got a job as a social worker in a non-government organisation with no qualifications, purely on the strength of what he had learnt as he learnt about the role and so on from Anthony. And so, hang on, no, back up please. Sotia is the man in the front at the bottom with the black and the red, and he said, Anthony always used to say, teamwork makes the dream work, and then because there was that focus on team, Sotia said, we will work together to finish Anthony's dream. And so the ones in the bottom photo are some of the people, past and present, who are helping that work to continue. Now you can move on, thank you. And that's all about people. It's all about people. And I'm not going to go through each individual one of those, but they are all people. You see, I feature in a number of them, and they are people who have helped me in the role that I was doing, but they are also people into whose life I have imparted things. Because one of the real surprises when we went to work in Cambodia, we had not realised we were going to be mentoring in the way that we ended up doing. And when we analysed why that was, we realised it was because of our age. We represent the missing generation that was killed at the hands of Pol Pot. And so the effect of that in Cambodia is enormous. Vietnam had a similar experience through Agent Orange. Vietnam has recovered, Cambodia has not. And so the way that shows is that younger people have no skills in the areas particularly of critical thinking. They are not aware of how what they do affects other people. They don't have the ability to think, I'm here and I want to get to here, therefore I need to do this, 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 and this. They have no idea where to start. And it was as we worked things through in our roles, we realised we were being watched. And that led to, just informal mentoring But also I came to realise that very definitely in the role that I had with each of my 3 assistants. And I think we do have time for me to tell you about those 3. The first one was in the bottom photograph. Her name is Kim. She was it doesn't matter how long she was with me, but unfortunately she got herself fired because she breached hospital policy. The hospital was not a very good payer, and she was selling organic health products on the side to hospital patients, which was bad enough. But when she was telling them that if they just took this product, they wouldn't need surgery, didn't quite work like that. I knew she was doing it. I warned her several times, and I said, Kim, you could lose your job over this. She said, yes, I know. And she did it once too often, and she did lose her job. I helped her a lot because her husband, who was quite a bit younger than her, decided that he wanted to trade her in for a younger model, and he became very abusive both to her and to her 8-year-old son. And we helped her get out of that situation, and we provided her with a place to live very temporarily while she got her act together to be able to find somewhere else to live. And so I can't think of going to Battambang without contacting Kim. The next assistant I had was in the photograph above her, and her name, it's not a Khmer name, she liked me to call her Rachel. She was the daughter of one of the ladies who worked in the laundry at the hospital, and her mum came to me one day and she said, could you help Rachel put together a CV because she needs to find work? So she came in, she had pretty good English, and I helped her put together a CV, which I was going to say did the trick, but she actually came along at the time when Kim had just been fired, very conveniently. And so I encouraged her to apply for the role, and went through all the official processes, but she got the job hands down because she spoke such good English. And in the program that I ran at the hospital, I worked a lot with young foreign volunteers, mainly American, sometimes Australian. So the person that was my assistant needed to be able to speak English, and Rachel got the job hands down because of that. Unfortunately, that was also her undoing, because less than a year after she came to work with me, the hospital administration decided that her English was very good and they would like her to work in the admin office, please. So I was not asked, I was told, and she vanished. So that was very unfortunate, because then I had to start and teach a third young woman how to make paper, how to interact with the patients, how to do everything else. However, with her, she lost her father, her 2.5-year-old nephew, her father from a stroke, 2.5-year-old nephew from leukemia, and her 35-year-old brother from AIDS in under 12 months. And I helped her through that. She said to me one day, I want to call you Mum. And I said, Rachel, you have a mum. She said, well, can I call you sister? And I said, well, you've got a sister as well. But in the end, she started calling me Bongsray, which was big sister. And I know that the work that I was able, what I was able to impart to her in the time that she was with me, that set her on the right path, for which I'm thankful. No thanks to me. I was there as a mission partner. I couldn't proclaim the gospel, I could show it in the way that we served and our interactions with people. So all of the people in those other photos were all important for one reason or another. The one in the bottom with me, with the young woman in the turquoise top, she was a house mother and still is at the organisation that we first worked with. She's currently sewing aprons for me, and when I go back next time I'll bring them back because I sell those aprons and the money gets returned to Cambodia. The one next along on the bottom with the lady in the red top, her name is sunbat, and she is also sewing for me. She makes bags, very good, very high quality. She came to us as our house helper. Basically, she cleaned the house, and then I discovered she could cook, so she started making meals for us on the days that she came. And then I discovered she could sew, so that's what she's still doing. And then the top one with the lady in the red, that is Sotia with his family, his wife Shanti, and their 2 young daughters, and they're expecting a third in the next few months. So we couldn't do what we did without all of these people around us. And it's very encouraging that even though half the project is, well, the whole project and half the personnel are not there anymore, the effect is still able to continue. And it is, I have found it very redemptive for me to realise that the continuation of paper making, jewellery making in Kim Leung's village has been enabled by our return to New Zealand. If Anthony hadn't become unwell, we probably would have continued the project. I would have continued the project work at the hospital once the worst of COVID was over. But that was never my real passion when I went to Cambodia. My original passion, as I've said there, was for a handcraft project based in a rural village, teaching women skills from which they could earn an income. That's happening now with Kim Leung. It didn't happen while I was there. It was all preparatory and necessary, but it is just such a reminder, really, that things like COVID and Anthony's illness and his subsequent return to New Zealand, it facilitated that. And for those of us who are believers, we know that that's something we couldn't have arranged. We know that that is God's hand at work, and it continues. I think the next slide, no, not quite. And as far as I'm concerned, people say to me, have you got Cambodia out of your system yet? I say, what? Out of my system? It will never be out of my system. It's always in my heart. And I came across this sort of slight paraphrase of the verse from Romans 11. God's gift and his call are irrevocable or irrevocable, depending on which school you went to. They are under full warranty, never cancelled, never rescinded. We both felt a very strong call to go and work in Cambodia, and that call has not stopped because I'm back here. It's changed, and the circumstances are totally different, but God hasn't said stop, so I keep going. And this has always been a favourite verse of mine. He who began a good work in you will be faithful to complete it. He who started the work will be faithful to complete it in you. And the photograph is in my garden with the memorial rose, the rose memory that was given to me when Anthony died, and that's Jenny from Melbourne. And together, Jenny and I are still very much in partnership. When I go back, she's often there at the same time, and we sort of enable and connect and network together. And she is just brilliant at that. And so I'm very thankful to have her. And she was the one who had the original idea of setting up the Legacy Fund. And one thing I didn't say was it was based on a fund that a man called Daryl from Brisbane, I think I said that, but I didn't say that his wife died of cancer about 6 years ago. Her name was Marion, and so he set up Marion's Legacy. And that's why Jenny got the idea. Marion, when she was working in Siem Reap in Cambodia, she had a real burden for for teenage girls and women, because the villages in Siem Reap, which is actually the poorest province in Cambodia, that's where the temples of Angkor Wat are, and this huge tourist dollar comes in there, but it doesn't reach the poor. And so they are actually the poorest province of the 22 in Cambodia. And most, or probably all of the villages that Daryl is working in, there was not one single toilet anywhere in the village. So Marion felt very burdened for the teenage girls and the women. No privacy. And of course, it's also an area of the world that, like many others, where girls don't go to school when they have their period because they have no sanitary products. Jenny is also involved with another project you might have heard of called Days for Girls. And Sikkim, they're both in my life. Sikkim, my first assistant, she and I pioneered Days for Girls in Cambodia. We were asked to start sewing the reusable sanitary pads and kits, and we did. We passed it on eventually to other people because it was not our mandate really, but we started it. And so that's one area of the world where that is making a big difference as well. So that's another thing that I can thank Jenny for. I think it must be time I stopped because the voice is getting less and less. So just a reminder, pray for Cambodia. The needs are huge. We've heard of the needs of the poor in New Zealand, and we can never deny that. But we also know there are many, many other places in the world where they do not have the benefit of so many people trying to work to help them. You know, at least there are a lot of organisations here that are trying to help those who are poor. Not the same in Cambodia. So it's still in my heart. I'm still passionate about it. I'm still fundraising. And over lunch, if you would like to take a poster, what's today? Thursday. On Saturday week, I'm having a craft fair at St Silas in Redwood, and that I do it twice a year. I have usually about 20 stallholders, although not quite so many this time, selling handcrafted products, recycled handcraft supplies, and the money goes to the projects that I do in Cambodia. And apart from that, I have a few people who give, believe in what we did, and although we were back here, they said we'd still like to help, so they give. And so I have a project account. It does not have tax deductibility, unfortunately. However, there are some people who give and are very willing to be involved. And so that's what I spend a lot of my days these days doing, is work that hopefully will eventually benefit Cambodians. Now, any questions? I must have said it all. Okay, and I'm within the time, and I won't fall off. I will treat this with great respect.